Do you remember being afraid in the darkness of your bedroom as a child? You may not have known what you were afraid of, but you knew the boogeyman was around and that he was going to get you. No, you couldn't see him, and you may not have really believed that he was real, but you just had this feeling of fear and danger in the darkness of the unknown. All you wanted was someone to make it right. So what did you do? Chances are you tried to interject the voice of your parent into the darkness. It might have been calling out, "Mom, I need a drink," or "Dad, I feel sick." You may have even made the ultimate confession, "Help, I'm scared." You may not have necessarily wanted them to come into the room, you just wanted to hear their voice. The sound of their trusted voice would make everything okay. Just knowing they were present with us gave us the comfort to go back to sleep and get the rest we needed. We're living in an uncertain time. Some people are annoyed by today's present situation while others are afraid, and just about everyone feels unnerved. Wouldn't it be great to have the sound of a calming voice in the midst of a crisis? As I thought about this, I was drawn to another time of uncertainty. When Jesus was on the cross, the world was in crisis. We can assume that his disciples, friends, and family were upended, but the panic may have extended to all the heavenly host who watched the plan of God unfold. Yet in the midst of chaos comes a voice, the voice of Jesus himself. The Bible records Jesus saying 7 things while he was being crucified, and while each one of them has a spiritual application, I think the 3 mentioned in Luke 23:33 through 46 can bring comfort and peace to today's world. At some point, we may go back and revisit the statements and their religious significance, but for this lesson, let's take a look at 3 statements and see if they can help us navigate today's troubled world. When Jesus was on the cross, he endured a lot of indignities. Just the basic process of crucifixion was designed to be painful and humiliating, and the Romans were masters at it. Add to this, the Jewish leaders made fun of him, and the crowd that had praised him a week earlier mocked him, and you find a situation filled with what could have become bitter. Yet as he was dying on the cross, he said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing." Luke 23:34. Jesus was willing to overlook their meanness. He was willing to grant mercy to those who abused him and mistreated him. While the spiritual significance of this statement is far-reaching, I believe it has a very practical application to us in today's crisis. There are going to be people who offend and annoy us. This will be compounded as we have less and less that we can control, and this becomes even more challenging if we don't really believe that what people are doing is necessary. Yet no matter the circumstances, there are going to be opportunities to get upset at people. While this may be a temptation, the lesson from the cross is to forgive the people around us. When we assume people are doing what they think is right, it's easier to give them the benefit of the doubt. When we understand that some people are upset and afraid, we can more easily understand their actions. Yet even if they're just acting out of the meanness and malice of their hearts, our example is forgiveness. Let's do us and them a favor. Let's forgive. Of all the people harassing Jesus, the ones that may have been the most annoying were the 2 criminals who were crucified with him. Not only would their physical proximity be a challenge, but the situation may have added to their frustration. Jesus was innocent and unjustly accused, but they were guilty of sin. While all 3 of them were on the cross, they lit into Jesus. They picked up on the themes of those who belittled Jesus' reputation. Interestingly, something happened. One of the men had a change of heart. For whatever reason, he accepted Jesus' claim as to who he was. In fact, he went from degrading Jesus to believing that Jesus' mission and ministry wasn't complete. His turnaround prompted his request, "Jesus, remember me when you come in your kingdom." Luke 23:42. He may not have understood what everything going on around him meant, but he definitely had faith that something incredible was about to happen. When Jesus heard this confession, he made the man a promise. "Truly I say to you, today you shall be with me in paradise." Luke 23:43. Jesus accepted his repentance and offered him hope for his future. There's a lot of uncertainty in our world today. We don't know what's going to happen with the present medical crisis, nor are we certain of what is really going to happen with our financial stability. Yet through it all, there is one thing for certain. No matter what happens on this earth, there is a home an eternal home for believers. We have hope that exists beyond this world. We know that eventually our world is going to go away, either through our death or by God's hand. But that's not the end. We have a promise of something better after this life is over. Let's make sure that we keep everything in perspective and live lives filled with hope. Some incredible things happened while Jesus was on the cross for several hours that day, but eventually it came time for him to die. This part of the mission and his ministry were finished, and it was time for things to come to an end. At that moment, Jesus cried out, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." Luke 23:46. These are among Jesus' final words, but interestingly, it's also a statement about the way Jesus had lived his life. Jesus had trusted the Father each and every step of his earthly journey, and now he was confident that God would be with him as he finished his work. He knew that God was pleased, and he was ready. As I look at this statement of Jesus, it shows me the confidence we can have in our lives. When we dedicate our lives to him, when we turn ourselves over to him, we have confidence that he rules our world and he controls our lives. This confidence and security in a life lived for God means that we don't have to worry about anything on this earth because we know that God's people are going to be okay. At this point, as we look into the future, we don't know what our lives and our world will look like 2 weeks or even 2 months from now. But the one thing we do know is that God is in control and that as his children, we're going to be just fine. As we look back at the cross, we can be certain that if God can use Jesus' crucifixion for his glory, we should not fear what will be the outcome of the coronavirus. Surely if God can overcome death, he can overpower illness.